Good morning, everyone. How are you all? I hope you're all well at your home. Well, today we will begin a new chapter from your supplementary reader, Footprints Without Feet. The name of the chapter is A Question of Trust. So, A Question of Trust. The story is written by Victor Canning. This story has two characters. One is Horace Denby. Horace Denby has the image of a good and honest man. But if you look at him, he was an unusual thief. Why unusual? Because he stole once a year only. Then there is a second character in the story, a lady in red. No name has been mentioned in the story. She is a smart thief. She outwits Horace and walks away with the jewels. When we talk about a question of trust, it signifies a matter of trust. But this becomes a question when one is betrayed. There is an unspoken rule amongst the people of same profession, especially thieves. They don't betray, don't tell on the other, and it is this unspoken code which makes them trust each other. But in this chapter, Horace, a thief, was cheated by a lady who was in the same profession. Hence the title, A Question of Trust. This chapter also conveys a message. We should not trust anyone without discovering about the person. Before we proceed further, let me tell you briefly what the story is about. The story is about a man named Horace Denby, who is 50 years old, and everyone around him thinks him to be a good and honest man. He was a locksmith, a person who makes locks. Locksmith is a person who makes locks. He used to earn enough so that he could hire 2 servants to help him. He was fond of books and used to collect rare books. Rare books are expensive. Rare books are books which are very difficult to get, so they are expensive. So we can say that he had an expensive hobby. He stole once a year so that he could indulge in his hobby of collecting rare books. He planned meticulously, that is in detail, before attempting a burglary, a theft. During his burglary attempt at a big house, he gathers all the necessary information and enters the house for stealing from the safe. And he is cheated by a lady thief who claims herself to be the owner of the house. Horace ends up in prison. We can say he got a taste of his own deeds. He was deceived by a person from his own profession. So now we will start reading the chapter. Chapter 4, A Question of Trust, page 20. It is said, you must set a thief to catch a thief. But it is also said that there is honor among thieves. Which saying does this story illustrate? So it is said that if you want to catch a thief, you'll have to set a thief. Set a thief means that you have to think like a thief, or you'll have to put a thief after that person, after the thief, to catch him. That is, you have to think like a thief if you want to catch a thief. And then there is also a saying that there is honor among thieves. That is, thieves respect each other and they do not betray each other. So, which saying does this story illustrate? So, we'll have to read and find out which saying does this story illustrate. Read and find out what does Horace Denby like to collect? Why does he steal every year? So we'll find the answer to these questions after reading the page 20. Everyone thought that Horace was a good, honest citizen. He was about 50 years old and unmarried, and he lived with a housekeeper who worried over his health. So everyone around Horace thought that he was a good, honest citizen. He was about 50 years old and he was not married, and he had a housekeeper at his house to look after his house, and the housekeeper usually worried over his health. In fact, he was usually very well and happy, except for the attacks of hay fever in summer. So if you look at Horace, he was very well. He was usually very well, that is, he was healthy and he was happy, but he used to get attacks of hay fever in summer. Hay fever is, you can say, an allergic reaction to the pollens or the hay which comes out of the crops. So during summer, he used to get an attack of hay fever. He made locks and was successful enough at his business. So Horace made locks, that is, he had the business of making locks, and you can say that he was successful enough at his business to have two helpers. That is, he had two helpers to help him with his business. Yes, Denby was good and respectable, but not completely honest. So if you look at him, at his profession, that he was successful, he had two servants with him, he had a housekeeper to look after his house. So seeing all these things, you can say that he was a respectable man, a good and respectable man. But if you go deeper, you'll find that he was not completely honest. That is, you cannot say that he always was honest in his dealings. He was doing some work which cannot be called as completely honest. 15 years ago, Horace had served his first and only sentence in a prison library. So 15 years ago, Horace had served his first and only sentence, that is, he was punished for only once, and he had served his sentence, that is, he had to undergo that punishment in a prison library. He loved rare, expensive books. So he robbed a safe every year. Each year he planned carefully just what he would do and stole enough to last for 12 months and secretly bought the book he loved through an agent. So what was Horace's fault? That is, he had a passion for rare books. He loved collecting rare books, that is, the books which are rare, which are not many in number. So he loved those books, and those books were expensive. So to get hold of those books, he robbed, that is, he stole once a year. That is, he planned his theft and he did it only once a year, and he stole enough to last for 12 months. That is, he stole that much only which could last for 12 months or which could make him survive for 12 months, and then secretly bought the book he loved through an agent, and then he would buy the book through an agent. He could not buy it directly, so he bought the book through an agent. Now, walking in the bright July sunshine, he felt sure that this year's robbery was going to be as successful as all the others. So he was taking a walk in the bright July sunshine, and he was thinking about the theft which he was about to do, and he feels that this year's robbery also will be successful. What do you mean by when we say successful robbery? A successful robbery from the robber's front is one where he doesn't get caught. So he's saying that all his robberies or all his theft has been successful till now. That is, he wasn't ever caught. So he is thinking that this year's robbery will also be as successful as all the others. For 2 weeks, he had been studying the house at Shotover Grange, looking at its rooms, its electric wiring, its paths, and its garden. So, for the last 2 weeks, he had been studying the house at Shotover Grange. Why the house at Shotover Grange? Well, this was the house which he was planning to steal from. So he was studying the house. In what way? He was studying the plans of the house. He was studying the rooms, that is, where the rooms are located and how and where to get in from. And then he studied the electric wiring, and he studied its path and its garden, that is where you can hide or where you can get into from. This afternoon, the two servants who remained in the Grange while the family was away in London had gone to the movies. So he's talking about that particular afternoon when he had planned that theft, and he's saying that that afternoon the two servants, that is, there were two servants, the entire family of the Shotover Grange had gone to London, and there were two servants living in the Shotover Grange, and they had gone to the movie. So Horace found this right opportunity to attempt that theft. Horace saw them go, and he was happy in spite of a little tickle of hay fever in his nose. So Horace saw them go, and he felt very happy because he knew, or he realized, that this was the opportunity to get into that, or to break into that house. Although he had a slight tickle in his nose, that is, his nose had started tickling and he was about to get that attack of hay fever, but still he was happy, thinking of the opportunity he had got. He came from behind the garden wall, his tools carefully packed in a bag on his back. So he was hiding behind the garden wall, looking at the movement of the servants, and as soon as they went, he came from behind the garden wall, and his tools, that is the equipments he needed to break into the house, they were all carefully packed in his bag, which was hanging on his back. There are about 15,000 pounds worth of jewels in the Grange safe. So he had done a recce, that is, he had made an inventory, or he had found out what was there in the Grange safe, and he had come to know that there were about 15,000 pounds worth of jewels. That is, the jewelry which was there in the safe of Grange, Shotover Grange, was about 15,000 pounds, worth 15,000 pounds. So if he sold them one by one, he expected to get at least 5,000, enough to make him happy for another year. So he is thinking that what is he going to do after attempting that theft. So he decides that if he sells one piece one by one, or if he sold the pieces one by one, he will get at least 5,000 pounds, which will be enough to make him happy for another year. There were 3 very interesting books coming up for a sale in the autumn. So he had come to know that there were some 3 interesting books which were coming up for sale in the autumn, and he aimed to buy those books. Now he would get the money he wanted to buy them. So he's thinking that now if I will be able to steal the jewelry from this house, and then I'll get the money to buy those books. With this thought, he was very happy. Okay, this is all for today. Thank you.